This is one of Scarlett Johansson's most explicit works. As a film based on a comic book, not only does it show her perfect body to the fullest, but the movie is also full of discussions on human nature and technology. In the future world, the boundaries between humans and machines are fading. With the progress of technology, humans have started using artificial organs to strengthen themselves. One of the leading companies is Hanka, who transplanted human brains into mechanical shells, make them into the strongest military agents. Major is one such special existence. Her body was severely damaged in an accident, and only her brain survived. So she became the first human-mechanical combination. Major joined Section 9, a government department dedicated to fighting crime. Because of Major's special body structure, she can directly access any security network and get the information she wants. This time her mission is to stop an imminent terrorist attack. As Major took off her jacket, she immediately leaped out of the air, and her body slowly entered a stealthy state during the rapid descent. At this moment, inside the building, the thugs had successfully occupied the place. At the command of an unknown order, the robot immediately extended its tentacles from its mouth, and she began to seize the memories of humans forcibly. At this time, Major also arrived here. She used her stealth to start a continuous sneak attack on the criminals. Faced with the sudden attacks, the thugs could not understand the location of their opponents, and they could only passively take the blows. Seeing that the number of enemies inside was getting smaller and smaller, Major also rushed in decisively at that moment. After finishing off all the thugs, she aimed her weapon at the robot holding the human hostage. Under her attack, this strange robot was immediately knocked to the ground. Next, the geisha robot started to beg for mercy. As Major tried to ask questions, the robot's voice suddenly changed. As the robot was about to fight back, Major shot it and killed it. Looking at the robot, which was no longer moving, Major gradually relaxed his guard. However, there was still one more criminal about to detonate the bomb, but luckily his teammate Batu arrived in time. After solving all the enemies, Batu also saw the conflict in Major's mind. She had doubts about her own body. Major is now no different from a robot. She does not need to sleep every day, only needs to be charged to stay alive. Even eating has become the use of medicine. When Major returned to her senses, she immediately turned around and left the place. Major returned to Section 9, and they began to analyze the information of this incident. The attacker was the manager of the Hanka Robotics Department, and his body was naturally artificially enhanced, but the robot had bypassed the encryption program in his brain. Now they have handed over the geisha's body to Hanka. The next step was to wait for the other party's analysis report. But then the patriarch himself came here. It turned out that the attack was so serious that 3 more Hanka scientists had just been attacked and they all showed signs of brain hacking. The perpetrators also left a message at the scene that he was called Q's and would destroy anyone who cooperated with Hanka. Realizing the seriousness of the problem, Major and Batu immediately rushed to Hanka's company to see if they could find any clues from the geisha. However, on their way to the company, Major's fantasy suddenly appeared before her eyes. Major was used to this. Since she switched to a mechanical body, she often saw some unknown images. Major first approached Dr. Owlet, who was responsible for the maintenance of Major's body, and explained that these were normal occurrences. After obtaining Major's consent, she directly deleted the abnormal data that suddenly appeared. Major found the geisha robot again, and the staff was fixing her. Geisha was just an ordinary companion robot, but she was artificially programmed and self-destructed after the data transfer. The only way to read Geisha's last memories is for Major to connect with her online. However, Major cannot encrypt and protect himself during the connection. If a virus or magnetic pulse is left in the other party's brain, then Major will also be seriously hurt. When Major looked at the eerie face of the geisha, her subconscious mind told her that she must find out the truth of this matter. After being warned by the staff, Major decided to sit at the experiment table. In the future world, human brains can be interconnected with the internet. Now Major was going to use this method to read the memory of the memory robot's brain. As the program started, Major felt himself plunging into a deep ocean of darkness and silence. As Major continued to fall, she soon reached the depths of the geisha's brain, where countless messages flashed past Major. By the time Major opened her eyes again, she also saw the last memory of geisha's life, where she was forcibly taken to another place by a group of people. As Major continued to track the past, she soon came to an unknown corridor. At the end of the corridor, a man in black was transforming geisha. When Major wanted to take a closer look, she didn't expect the man in black to suddenly give her a hand signal. At once, Countless black shadows immediately trapped Major, and in reality, Major's body began to tremble. As the black shadows kept pulling, Major seemed to be caught in a dilemma. She tried desperately to break free but could not do nothing. Fortunately, Bata noticed Major's abnormality, a sign that an unknown program had invaded her brain. Major was in increasing danger, and just as she was about to be dragged into the abyss by the man in black, Bata unplugged Major's neural connection. Major immediately regained consciousness, and in the information interconnection, she had just found Q's remote location, and they immediately arrived at the Four Eyes Gang's territory. Major was responsible for infiltrating quietly, while Bata stayed outside and prepared to meet him. However, while Major was looking around, her reaction soon attracted the gang's attention. One of his men intercepted Major and brought her to a special private room. The man inside immediately handcuffed Major, and then a strong man closed the door wickedly. It turned out that Major's attractive appearance had attracted the boss's interest. He was about to make a move on Major, and just as Major was about to resist, the guards at the door immediately used electric shock batons, and there was shielding equipment in the room. No signal could be transmitted from here, but they didn't know that Major had a mechanical body. Then Major immediately launched a counterattack and the two men inside were quickly knocked to the ground when their opponents were caught off guard. At the same time, Bata also found that Major had lost contact with him, so he immediately ventured into the bar as well. But as soon as he arrived, he was noticed, and while he was confronting the gang, Bata heard the sounds of fighting coming from inside the booth and immediately attacked. As the two men made more and more noise, more and more gangsters were coming to the area. Bata saw the situation and used anti-personnel weapons. Under his fierce attack, the surrounding gangsters were quickly wiped out. The Major inside the room was not to be outdone. She first used her talent to dodge the bullets. In the Major's counterattack inside, the gangsters were also all knocked to the ground. Bata also rushed to join Major immediately after peace was restored. They arrived at a hidden basement. Major kicked open the door, but she was surprised to see her fantasy again. When Major regained consciousness, she found the place full of bombs. Major immediately turned around and pushed Batu out, and with an explosion, they were all instantly blown away. What happened here was now in the eyes of a mysterious man, Q's, who had been hiding in the shadows. By the time Major woke up again, she was already lying on top of a hospital bed. Because she blocked most of the damage during the explosion, her mechanical body was also severely damaged. But fortunately, these injuries can be quickly repaired. But Bata lost his eyes during the mission. Although the mechanical eyes he replaced were not very beautiful, he also had the special ability to see through and so on. At the same time, Henka's deciphering of the geisha has also made discoveries. However, at this time, a man in black burst in. The staff immediately unplugged the data hard disk, but before he could do anything else, he was brutally killed by the man in black. By the time Major heard the commotion and arrived here, the killer had disappeared. She found the hard drive protected by the staff, which recorded the information that Q's had stolen. This is a secret plan of the Henka Company, and the person who participated in this plan is the target of Q's murder. The last figure on the list was Dr. Willette, who had been caring for Major. Major saw this and immediately tensed up. This is the robot of the future world. Her index finger was rapidly tapping the keyboard, but in the next second, the car was immediately knocked out of the way. Then, two figures slowly approached, who were now remotely controlled by Q's. Just as they were about to kill Dr. Willette, Major finally arrived in time, and a fight broke out between the two sides. The attacker's body was quickly shot under Major's attack, but he fought back as if nothing had happened. However, as support troops arrived, the attacker knew he was no match for the attacker. He immediately turned around and started running away, and his silhouette quickly went into stealth. Major saw this and immediately followed after him. The attacker then started to run away quickly, obviously familiar with the terrain. However, Major had a clear view of the attacker's escape route through a plane in the sky. When the attacker reached a safe place, he noticed something unusual around him. However, before he could continue his attack, Major had already rushed out. In her sudden attack, before the other party could react, he was directly knocked to the ground with two punches. However, Major didn't release her invisibility at this time because the enemy hadn't lost his power to fight back yet. He started attacking randomly around him again, and this time Major caught his opponent's weapon directly. The attacker was immediately thrown into the air by her counterattack. In Major's next attack, the enemy is simply no match. Major saw this and came out of stealth. She kicked her opponent out of the air. Major then went up to the attacker and started punching him hard. Dr. Willette was Major's closest relative, and as she was losing her temper, Batu arrived on the scene. They wanted to keep the victim alive to get more information. However, during the following interrogation, the attacker had no idea what he had done. At this point, Major also quickly understood that Q's must have taken control of his body. The trail was about to be broken when Q's started invading again. Major saw this and immediately walked into delay while his teammates tracked Q's coordinates backward through the device. When they succeeded in locking onto the other side's location, the members of the 9 visitors immediately began to move. They came to a hidden basement. There were many people here who were networking, and some of them were undergoing illegal transformations. When the team members saw this, they immediately rushed in, and under their surprise attack, all the members here were quickly controlled. They immediately shot them down as there were still people trying to resist, but the other side still threw a bomb before dying. With the sound of an explosion, the place was immediately flooded with smoke. Then, a group of people also took the opportunity to rush over. Due to their entanglement, the team members temporarily stopped here, and only Major alone managed to break through. She soon came to a special place. Countless people are seated in a ball here, and data is being transmitted from each of them. Now Major finally knew why he could not find Q's location. It turned out that he used human consciousness to create a network that belonged only to him. Major then began searching for other places, but to his surprise, the illusion reappeared before his eyes again. In the time it took for her to get lost, someone rushed up and attacked her. Although Major started to fight back immediately, enemies kept appearing all around her. Major was soon pinned to the ground and lost consciousness from their successive attacks. When Major woke up again, she found herself in a strange place. At that moment, Q's, who had been hiding in the shadows, finally appeared, and now he wanted to connect Major to his network as well. Here, even if her body dies from the world, her soul can still live on and be reborn again. Then Q's also took off his winter hat, which had been hiding him, and to his surprise, he was the same mechanical body as Major. When Major was connected to Geisha's brain, Q's also took the opportunity to read Major's information. He finds out that Major and himself are the same kind of person, and now he is going to tell Major a shocking secret. It turns out that Q's was the failure of Hanka's 2571 plan. Major is also a member of this plan. On the surface, he is the first biochemical person to achieve full body integration. In fact, there have been 98 failed experiments before him. After Q's was cruelly abandoned, Major became the next experiment after him. They became more skilled after creating Q's, so the experiment was unexpectedly successful with Major. Instead of saying that Q's was carrying out a revenge plan, Q's was defending himself. If we can't destroy Hanka, we won't know how many more people will die from this experiment. Now Q's wanted Major to join his team so they could take revenge on Hanka together. Then, Q's immediately put down Major, but Major unexpectedly attacked him. Numerous bullets hit Q's chest, but because he was also a mechanical body, Q's did not suffer any serious injuries. At this time, Major also found a strange pattern in Q's chest, and every time he had a vision of himself, the same. Q's then told Major that the tattoo existed before he was transformed and that it might solve the mystery of their origin. He told Major to stop injecting the potion provided by the company and that its real purpose was to suppress the original memories. Just as Major was in shock, his teammate Batu also arrived at this time. Q saw this and immediately started attacking, but his aim was not to kill. After temporarily repelling Batu's attack, Q's turned around and left the area. Batu noticed the situation and wondered why Major had let Q's go. After thinking for a while, Major also chose to turn around and leave. He immediately sent a plane to start searching around. Soon after, Hanka's company locked Major's location. Major didn't put up any resistance when she saw that there were so many of them. She let the security guards take her back to Hanka headquarters and waited until she was completely imprisoned when the boss gave an order to Dr. Willette. Since Major had become a destabilizing factor, Major was now destroyed. The doctor immediately opposed this decision. She suggested deleting Major's abnormal memories or just recoding Major, but the boss was determined since Major's program was already flawed. It was a worthless asset in his eyes. Then, under the watchful eye of the boss, the doctor also had to start destroying Major's brain. However, after 1 year of living together, she had already taken Major as her daughter. So under the boss's watchful eye, the doctor secretly changed the drug to be injected, with another drug injected into Major's body. Her paralyzed body regained consciousness instantly. The doctor saw this and handed her a hard drive that hid Major's real life. At this time, the boss also found the doctor's movements, and when they opened the door, the guards outside immediately rushed in, but under the Major's attack, they were quickly knocked to the ground. Then at the urging of the doctor, Major immediately begins to flee the place. She easily puts down the guards along the way, and at this time, Major is not at mercy. Soon, Major made it to the outside. Next, she will also go to solve the mystery of her own life. At this time, in the laboratory, the boss first shoots and kills the doctor, and then he immediately finds the leader of Section 9. He falsely claimed that Major had gone rogue and killed the doctor and asked Section 9 not to provide any protection to Major. Next, the Hanka company will find Major and then cut the spot to kill. However, the team leader did not believe Major would do such a thing. He insisted on contacting Major before making a decision. When faced with a leader who did not listen to advice, the boss had to leave the place angry. On the other hand, according to the clues left by Dr. Major, she soon arrived at an ordinary apartment. Here, she saw a familiar cat and a woman who came out to check on him. The woman warmly invited Major to her home. When Major arrived inside, she saw a familiar statue in the room. Seeing that Major was curious about the place, the woman explained that it was her daughter's room, but she ran away from home and never came back. Until a year ago, when the government sent her daughter's ashes, they said her daughter had died by suicide, but the woman didn't believe it. Her daughter was a happy and fearless girl. She had been living with her friends in the disorderly zone, and she thought that mechanical technology would one day destroy the whole world. From the first moment the woman saw Major, she unconsciously thought of her daughter. Looking at the woman's eyes full of concern for herself, Major immediately panicked and left the place. She then reported her story to the Public Security 9 guest. After learning the truth about everything, the team leader immediately decided to report to the Prime Minister. However, they did not know that the boss had bugged the call system of the 9 guests. The older man got into the car and the window beside him was shattered immediately. Dense bullets began to shoot wildly at the car, attacking his Hanka-S security forces. However, when they wanted to get closer to checking, the car door suddenly opened, and the team leader came out directly under fire. The attackers around him were knocked to the ground under his counterattack, while on the other side, Major arrived at the disorderly area that her mother had mentioned. In this place, she saw the building that had been on her mind. Major finally remembered that he and the Qs were once lovers. They have always adhered to the same philosophy. That is, mechanical technology will sooner or later destroy the entire human race. So one day, Hanka attacked the place, and they took everyone away and then carried out the so-called 250-71 plan. Finally, only Major survived. When Major walked inside, he did not expect the Qs to be in this place. He knew Major would be able to find this place, but before they could say anything, an explosion suddenly sounded. Both of them were immediately blown out of the room. It turned out that the boss had found Major's location, and she directly activated Hanka's latest weapon. A spider-like tank rushed straight toward the two. Major heard the movement and immediately climbed up, but Q's had been injured in the explosion, and Major had to move him to a safe place first. Seeing that the tank was still approaching, Major started to fight back, but ordinary bullets were useless. Under the tank's firepower, Major had to keep dodging. Under the bombardment of the tanks, the load-bearing pillars behind Major were quickly destroyed. Just as the building was about to collapse, Major made a deft and quick exit, and with just a few jumps, she managed to escape to higher ground. Without Major to stop her, the tank quickly found Q's position, but Q's was not the least bit intimidated, and he even unremittingly penciled out a hand gesture. The boss was ready to kill when Major rushed out again, and the tank immediately shifted the target. Major dodged while counterattacking, and as time went on, the tank also managed to lock Major's position and directly fired a rocket. Major had been killed, and the boss then aimed at the Q's. Just in the nick of time, a stealthy figure immediately rushed over, and she jumped on top of the tank with a single leap. It turned out that Major did not die in the explosion just now, but the weapon in her hand could not damage the tank at all. So Major started attacking directly with his fists, but it still didn't work. Major then also used her last resort. Her mechanical body has an extremely powerful force. With Major's full force, the skin on her body began to burst because it could not withstand the pressure. After losing an arm, Major ripped open the tank's cockpit. The war machine immediately lost control. and an explosion blew her away. Looking at her lying motionless on the ground, Hughes immediately struggled to crawl over. His brain had been damaged in the battle and he was ready to transfer his consciousness to the network so that he would continue to accompany her in another way. However, Hanka's sniper had also arrived at that moment. The sniper hit Hughes in the head with a direct shot. The sniper aimed at Major again, but fortunately, at this time, support from Section 9 also finally arrived. The team member hit Hanka's plane with a direct shot. On the other hand, the leader of the 9 customers also found the boss's position. Now his series of actions had completely violated the laws of the country. The boss tried to resist at this time. The team leader shot him down. When the team leader went to the boss, the other parties still wanted to beg for mercy, but then the team leader directly contacted Major. At the film's end, the city regains its peace and Major arrives at her former grave. She wanted to say goodbye to her past, and when Major turned around, her mother was standing not far away looking at her. Major finally found what she had always wanted, and in the future, she will continue to protect the city's justice.